Good evening, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. This meeting takes place in the traditional and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. There are no additions or deletions to the agenda, so we'll move on to number 4.1. Recommendation that council approve the agenda for the December 9th, 2025 meeting as presented. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded by Councillor Babineau. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes. Recommendation that council approve the November 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Fullerton, seconded by Councillor Greek. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Now we have a presentation, the RCMP quarterly report. So go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. For those whom I haven't had the opportunity to personally meet yet, my name is Staff Sergeant David Ferguson, currently the District Commander for Lunenburg District RCMP. A little bit about where I've been. I was previously one of the operations managers for Lunenburg District for several years, as well as in charge of the street crime unit here in the district prior to that. I took a promotion and went to West Hants following their amalgamation as the district commander in 2020. And very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to return to Lunenburg District as of May of this year. So I do recognize some familiar faces in the room that I've had the pleasure of working with previously. So we'll jump into the quarterly report for the town of Lunenburg. Nothing has changed at the moment in relation to the organizational structure, the number of resources that we have. I've highlighted in 1.1 full-time equivalent utilization for the established positions. Basically, that paragraph highlights the number of impacted positions that we're managing currently within Lunenburg District and the reasons that those positions have been impacted. For our fleet, nothing has changed in relation to the fleet with the exception of we seem to be having a difficult time avoiding the deer within Lunenburg County. We've lost several vehicles as a result of deer collisions. Obviously, if they can be repaired within reason, we're doing that. And several of them were beyond repair. Repair costs exceeded the value of the vehicle, and those vehicles have been identified for replacement. I will apologize for the statistical table that you see within the report. I just noticed it this evening prior to coming to the meeting that the reason that there's no amount of change, when I looked at it initially, I was thinking to myself, wow, Lunenburg Town is pretty consistent quarter to quarter because there hasn't been any changes within the data table. However, I did notice that there is an Excel spreadsheet that's used to populate this table, and the data used was the same data for the same quarter, which obviously would not show any amount of change because all the numbers are the same for each occurrence type. So what I'll do when I get back to the office tomorrow, I'll make sure that the proper data table is created, the report is updated, and I'll send it back out for dissemination to council. With that said, provided that the Q3 numbers, which actually, because we operate based on the fiscal year from April to March, would technically be our Q2. But if those numbers are accurate, there's nothing within the table that jumps out at me that I would see as a significant cause for concern within town. The calls for service are highlighted. The way I like to do that is show the current quarter, and I'll do that for the entire district as well as a snapshot of the same quarter for the town itself. So that again highlights the number of occurrences that we're dealing with. And I like to compare the same quarters through the previous year as the current year, because it gives us an ability to look at whether there are any significant differences in occurrence types or the number of occurrences that we're having to deal with during the same time of year. Obviously, summer, we see an increase in traffic within the volume of traffic within Lunenburg District. And as a result, we see our occurrence count go up during the summer months as a result of that. The road safety report, number 6, highlights the work that's been completed throughout the quarter by the Lunenburg District members, including the number of check stops throughout the district. And again, once I update the previous table we discussed, it'll highlight specific to the town of Lunenburg. The number of summary offense tickets that have been issued, written warnings, number of collisions that we've dealt with throughout that quarter, as well as our strategic traffic enforcement plans. So what we've done within Lunenburg District is every month, the shift supervisors have to create a plan for traffic enforcement and road safety and put that in place somewhere within the district. So typically we look at problem areas or significant issues in different communities, and we'll try to target that area with enforcement activities. So in the event there are any specific concerns within Lunenburg town, we definitely have the ability to put a plan in place, create a plan, and put that in place to address those issues or those concerns. During the quarter, we have trained several additional members to operate the UTV and the ATVs. So that's enhanced our ability to conduct proactive patrols on the trails within the district. And we've also highlighted the number of impaired drivers that have been apprehended on the roads within the district. Our general investigation section, that section has been, we've developed that and built it out where it now has a developmental investigator position within the unit. And I highlight that because it's important with regard to some of the more serious investigations or more complex investigations that we have to deal with. So these are specialized investigative resources that when one of these incidents happens, we can assign it to them and they'll take it from start to finish for the investigation. Because those types of investigations, if we were to leave it with the general duty uniformed resources, would take up a significant amount of their time, pulling them off the road and being counterproductive to trying to increase our visibility within the communities. So we've highlighted some of the investigations that they've worked on throughout the quarter. Our school safety resource officer, Constable Ted Bailey, Ted's been extremely active within the schools, within the district. Very beneficial because he can deal with a lot of the issues that come up within the schools before they turn into a matter where, you know, it has to be investigated and absorb additional police resources. And Constable Bailey's position is one of the positions that is funded through the additional officer program by the province. Same thing goes for the South Shore Integrated Street Crime Enforcement Unit. The two positions, the corporal and the constable, both positions that are funded through the additional officer program, and extremely beneficial to have within the district, and partnered with Bridgewater Police Service as well, because it allows us, similar to the general investigation section, it allows us to dedicate resources to specific problems, whether it's drug trafficking, prolific offenders within the area or within the communities. Those are the resources that we would dedicate to those types of issues. And in point number 10, significant noteworthy, just highlights some of the activities that we've been involved in throughout the quarter, some of the communications that we've had with different partners, agencies in relation to some of the issues that we faced throughout the quarter. Are there any questions related to that?
Does anyone have any questions? Just like to make a comment that I will say, and I've said it before, but in the last year or so, the presence of the RCMP has been quite noticeable. It's been quite a positive change for the community, and I know the last couple of weekends, you guys have all been out and about on the weekends, which is really nice. And I think it's not going unnoticed. I'll put it that way. So again, I thank you, because that's something that we were missing for a few years. And I think a lot of it had to do with staffing and COVID and things. But I will say the last year to year and a half, we've really noticed a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the support of the communities. And that's no different than the same concern that I heard in West Hants prior to coming here was our visibility within the communities. So that's part of through our consultation process with our partners. That's what we've heard. That's what we've taken steps to try to address. There's action plans we have internally that hopefully, obviously, it's working if we're seeing an increased presence and we're receiving that feedback. So we'll do that again for the upcoming year, probably the next meeting. So what I would ask is to put your mind towards what the policing priorities, what the issues are within your community, what the priorities should be for us to focus on. And we'll work together, take that into consideration, and we'll come up with a plan to deal with those issues and those concerns within the community.
That'd be great, because we're forming a police commission or board with Modal, but we hadn't kicked it off yet or started it because of the policing review that was happening, and that was just released. So now we realize we have to get on that, but it would be great to sit down with you folks and just list some priorities that we think we feel we have. And again, I will say the one thing that was really nice to see is, like, Gord, and who's ever working as well here during events. Like, I've been texting Gord about a week before or 3 days before an event. They show up to every event and they're dressed in the red serge, and the tourists definitely love to see the RCMP show up in their red serge. It really, people, all you see is Gord down there doing photo ops like the whole afternoon, like on Canada Day. So again, we appreciate that.
Thank you. It's important to make those connections with the communities.
Deputy Mayor.
Just a personal welcome back to Staff Sergeant Ferguson. Nice to have you. And I just wanted to say that, I guess, further to your offer and our discussions we have had previously about planning for how to improve safety and traffic safety, actually, sort of just internally in the town. We've had some discussions about that. And so it'd be nice to actually sort of have dedicated discussion about that and to try to communicate, in a formal way what we maybe can work together on. So appreciate that.
We'd be more than happy to.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else have any? Councillor Daphne.
Have you noticed during your traffic stops or your DUIs, is it still more alcohol than weed, or is weed moving up the line?
In relation to the actual, I guess, the cause for impairment or the charges that are laid, typically it's predominantly alcohol at the moment. It's not to say that people are not driving while impaired by cannabis. At the moment, the challenge is the additional training that's required to identify that, detect it, and have the ability to actually do the tests. So we need a drug recognition evaluator when there's impairment by a drug. I'm actually happy to report that we just had one of our members complete the final week of that training, which was in Jacksonville, Florida, in the United States. There's multiple weeks of training that has to go into that. But between the training and the equipment as well, that's required for that, there's additional training that we have to complete within the district. And that in turn will enhance our ability to detect individuals that are impaired by drugs on our roads.
One more. And social media tells you a lot. Alcohol on the trail system. I see a lot of pictures that tell me that it's quite the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not naive enough to think that that's not happening on the trails. That is the reason that we've identified the priority of having additional members trained to operate the ATVs and our side-by-side, so we can conduct more proactive patrols on the trails. Recognizing that for some of the enforcement, DNR is responsible as well, but typically for the impaired operation on the trails, that falls to us. If DNR was to encounter a driver that's impaired by alcohol, they call us to deal with that. So last quarter, we actually conducted several proactive patrols on the trail systems throughout Lunenburg District. And as a result, managed to apprehend several impaired drivers as well as 7-day suspensions. So we're trying to get out there on the trails more and dedicate resources to that because we do recognize that it is a concern within the communities.
So it's the Christmas season, and I noticed in your report the mental health calls states, well, I think status quo.
To manage from our perspective, then I would definitely make sure that we have resources allocated. I think the important thing to highlight when it comes to mental health is the programs and supports that are in place within the community, and having the ability to get people in touch with those resources prior to it becoming, an acute issue that the police have to be called, and then, we have to be involved and manage that situation with the person.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Strong.
It's just a comment that I was happy to read that the officer who was hit in the struck by the vehicle and during a traffic stop was recovered from those injuries. So it's always a worry on our part is that you guys are in the line of fire too. So,
and it's unfortunate, but we've seen an increasing number of incidents similar to that throughout the province. But yes, thankfully, our member is pretty resilient, pretty quick on his feet, so no significant injuries as a result. Thank you.
Again, if nobody else has anything, I'd just like to extend our best wishes to you and your family, and of course your work family, and everybody over the holidays, and for a safe and safe and crime-free 2026. So thank you very much, and enjoy the holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Same to you.
So next on the agenda, number 7, public input. We have nobody signed up tonight. So we'll move on to correspondence. I just have one item of correspondence that I received late today, and this is from staff. It just says, it's actually to Paul, and it says, I know that you have your meeting today with mayor and deputy mayor as well as council this evening, but I want to update you to the credential strength we have in our finance. The fact that we have attracted and hired and addressed succession planning with hiring Jacob speaks strongly to the overall HR plan. I thought we as a council and as a team would like to congratulate Jacob McQuiggan as our accountant on successfully completing all the requirements for his chartered professional accounting designation. So congratulations, Jacob. That's a big accomplishment. Lisa Dagley, our director of finance, who is a chartered accountant as well as a chartered professional accountant, and Jacob McQuiggan, who also now holds his chartered professional accounting designation, speaks to the future of our finance department. We've also hired Wendy Renahan, who is an accounts payable professional, presently on a term position, but she's being trained for other areas in the department, as well as all our senior staff that we've had for years. So I just want to let the community know that our finance department is coming along very nicely, and we have a very strong staff here in the town of Lunenburg. So everybody should feel very pleased with the ability we've had to attract and retain the staff members here. So again, I want to thank Paul as the new CAO and all the staff for they're definitely a big part of the reason we are able to keep employees when we get them. So people like Tyson and Kayla that work with these folks every day. Again, thank you very much to the team. So thank you. So we'll move on. There are no public hearings. Business arising from the minutes. There isn't any. So first on the agenda is 11.1, initiating MPS and LUB amendments for expanded development agreements and introducing site plan approvals. There are 2 recommendations there, but Paul is giving the report tonight. So Paul.
Thank you, Council. Mark apologizes he can't be here this evening, so I'll be taking his file here. So the report and the recommendations are looking at the inclusion of development agreements and site plan agreements into our LUB and our MPS. So the purpose of these is that they're not tools that are in our system right now that we can use for developments and processing forward for negotiations and setting standards within our zoning bylaws. So the town's current planning documents are only limited with our DAs, and they do not actually include the SPA. So I'm just going to use those as their site plan amendments. So the result of this is it gives a lot of as of right developments, but doesn't give us the strength to protect ourselves and protect our zoning bylaws and our LUBs and our processes in our community. So things like performance bonds, things like making sure setbacks are in place, or looking at just even the structures of site plans. These are all critical processes that we need in place and that were removed from our previous LUB. So expanding on these will provide council and staff with a broader toolkit to ensure development is appropriate and consistent with the community expectations, while also supporting the town's commitment under our Housing Accelerator Fund. So this is actually another item that we have to address for that. So this is the steps in the beginning of the amendment process, to which we will include a planning advisory committee considerations and host a PPM, so your public participation meetings, prior to this returning to council. So the rest of the report is there, council. It really describes, what development agreements are, what site agreements are, but really we're talking built form, use of mix of uses of lands, phasing, service and infrastructure needs, environmental requirements, heritage and view plan considerations, construction and operational considerations, and there's a lot more under the MGA. So this actually would give us a very strong tool to work with. So there are 2 recommendations here, but I would also add a third one, that with those that council would direct the development agreements and the site plan approval drafts to be referred to the PAC and host PPMs in January of 2026.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Paul? Deputy Mayor?
we've discussed this a little earlier today, and I'm just, I'm not super clear on how they'll be used. So I look forward to more information with a recommended amendment that discusses how they would be utilized and under whose authority they are granted and those sorts of things. What processes it would need to go through in order to be legally binding on the parties involved. Ideally, planning documents are written so you wouldn't need development agreements. It would be kind of clearly defined and understood with the documents in place. But there's always exceptions. There's always challenges. So I'm interested to learn more about how this would work. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? There's one, we'll do each recommendation separate. So recommendation number 1, that council directs staff to prepare draft amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to expand the circumstances under which development agreements may be considered. Is anyone willing to move that? Moved by Councillor Fullerton. A seconder? Second by Councillor Strong. Any further discussion on the recommendation? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. Recommendation number 2, that council directs staff to prepare draft amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to introduce site plan approvals as a planning tool consistent with the provincial guidance. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Daphne. A seconder? Councillor Babineau. Any discussion on that recommendation? Deputy Mayor.
Again, just we'll be looking for more clarity. So just I kind of make the observation that site plan approvals, typically I would have expected this to be a function of staff, and I'm not clear if that's as it would work under this it being newly introduced again. So.
Through you, Chair, this would be for development officers. So it just gives more structure for a development officer when they're looking at site plans and site approvals. So it actually it gives them another tool, no different than our planners when we're looking at development agreements. So when you're talking setbacks of buildings, looking for variances or placement of structures, this allows us to see a better site plan so that the full detail of a plan, not just a building, but everything on the site would have to be included. And these are questions that can be asked and then verified through the development officer. So it would be another tool for development officers to build off of, so that if we're missing information or there's something on site that we can go and see that's something not on the site plan, we can go back and say this needs to be added. We need to make sure that this is accounted for within the full site plan. So it's just making sure there's accountability to our planning structures.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Strong.
Because when I was reading it, I did realize that one of the alternatives is to postpone this process now until we complete the full review. And I'm not proposing that we do that, but I just want to know, in terms of time, is this actually going to line up with that review? And how much time is going to be? Is the review going to take us to the next term of the council, or and the other be in place before the review is over? I'm just trying to picture it.
So through you, Chair. So the goal is, this is the first key amendments that we see to the MPS and the LUB. So starting this process, we hope to initiate for January, go through the process by hopefully the end of February, beginning of March, that these will be added into the MPS and the LUB existing. And then because our new planner starts next week, which is fantastic, we want to talk about, we were even going through the documents saying, okay, well, we need new definitions for these. We need new breakdowns for these. It's more of a deeper dive we have to make on the MPS and the LUB. So probably estimating time frame, you're probably talking 6 to 8 months when you're talking public consultation review and processes that way. So probably most of your next year will have some sort of level of MPS and LUB consultation, PAC, PPMs, and going through that process because there needs to be a holistic review of all of those documents. And even then we're even seeing, do we want to look at creating another best practices of, depending on neighborhoods, keeping characters, keeping look and feel of the town. So it's a lot broader of a move when we're looking at the full documents. By bringing these two forward, at least it gives us stronger tools to work with if there's things that we're not satisfied within the current MPS and LUB, it gives us a tool that we can negotiate with developers to say, we feel this is the direction council's going. Here's some more strength and protections we can build in for the community.
Lunenburg's really tiny. And if we discover that the DAs aren't working while we're doing the process, do we revisit this then or?
Through you, Chair, we can, but at that point, we can revisit it as part of the MPS and LUB review. At least then these come in place. We're one of the only municipalities that doesn't have these actually in our bylaws.
Anybody else? Everybody in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried. You'll have to read the next one.
So thank you, Chair. That council directs staff that the development agreements and site plan approval drafts are referred to the PAC and host PPM in January of 2026.
Someone prepared to move that. Moved by Councilor Greek. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor, any questions or discussions on that? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you very much. 11.2, information report, marketing levy bylaw survey results. Kayla?
Perfect. Thank you so much. So this report provides an update on the proposed marketing levy bylaw, which council has identified as a priority. So to help ensure that this bylaw works for the businesses affected by it, we did start the process of targeted engagement. So we sent out a survey to all the registered accommodation operators, and we heard back from about half of them. So the survey asked, I want to say 11 questions, but the big ones are overall support for the levy, preferred reporting and remittance schedules, and any challenges for the proposed April 1 start date. So as you'll see outlined in the report, support for the levy was mixed, but I would say the most consistent concern was about the implementation. So specifically, operators raised issues about how their booking software would apply new fees. That was one of the big ones. So while our intent is that the levy would only apply to bookings made on or after April 1 of next year, we don't expect operators to retroactively charge guests who booked earlier. However, in talking with operators, they've said that might not automatically work for them when you're looking at changing their softwares or systems. It's not as easy as going in and doing that. So because of some of the challenges identified, which some of them are shared in the report, if council still wishes to proceed with an April 1 start date, we're recommending that this would be a soft rollout. So focusing on education, support, flexibility, getting to know what this process is like, rather than a strict enforcement, which we would recommend comes through in the next year. Another option that's outlined in the report for council's consideration, council can still approve the bylaw in early 2026, but set the effective date as January 1, 2027, which is what we're seeing our neighbors in Chester doing as well. This would give operators a bit more time to adjust to the system. They'd be able to go in and start making those changes earlier in the year to their systems. And this also allows a little bit of time as we're looking at council's priorities. We know that the marketing levy is working in tandem with short-term rentals. So council's already identified a priority is looking at possibly reviewing short-term rental regulations. So just exploring those possible planning amendments could take us longer than spring 2026. So making sure that we're aligned with that. If we're making changes to short-term rentals, maybe it is worth waiting till January 1, 2027, but still having the bylaw approved, ready to go. Realistically, the timing option is workable. both of them from staff standpoint. So we can support a soft rollout beginning April 1 if council chooses to keep with the original plan. Or with council's direction, we could get the bylaw rolling and then have it enacted in January 1, 2027. So really, this is just letting council know where we're at, what we're hearing from the operators as we do the engagement to make sure that they're included with what this process looks like. So I'll leave it with council to discuss. If you have any questions about the survey or anything in the report, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Kayla. I will make a few comments to start, I guess, only because I've dealt with the marketing levy a few times before. First time probably 20 years ago, and I never want to experience anything like that again. And then again in around 2010 or 12, and again both times we were slightly ahead of the times, and it was only Halifax that had it. We probably were. It was too early at the time. Right now, it doesn't matter where you go in North America. There's a marketing levy, but I do have sympathy for the operators coming up this year because there are many operators that have 50% capacity right now already booked, or 25% capacity already booked for next summer. And they've booked a lot of those nights through third-party sites like Booking.com or whatever. And what I've been told, because a number of people have reached out to me, that they're not necessarily opposed to the levy, but they prefer we wait till January 1st, 2027, because it's going to be a real issue for them to change everything in midstream. So, and if Chester's waiting until January 1, 2027, I think it would be a good idea to roll it out the same time they do as well. And again, but we've left a lot of money that can go back into the community on the table, in my opinion, for about 15 years now. And we were really, quite honestly, bullied out of not having a marketing levy in 2010, to be quite frank. And so I think it's now time. I think most communities look at us like, Lunenburg is a destination. Everybody knows we're a destination town, and we have no marketing levy. The regular guest doesn't even notice it on the bill, because you don't tell them there's a marketing levy when you call and ask how much the room is. You just notice it. If you actually look at your invoice when you check out, you notice it there. So it's so common in North America. In fact, it's common across the world right now. So I think that this is money that the community could use towards expanded tourism seasons, events, festivals for the community. And there's other things that I'm hoping that we'll be able to get permission from the province to use the money for. For one example I can think of, and we're not sure if we can or can't at this point, but it costs us about $25,000 a year to run the public washroom. Well, right now they're saying we can't, but I think there's ways to just, to talk to them about that, because that is definitely a tourism related facility. Yes, some locals, when they go for a walk, use it, but I bet you 80% of the users that use the public washroom would be visitors. So again, I just wanted to get my feelings out on the table, because I was known as the levy guy when I was in council years ago and involved in the Board of Trade, but I think it's time. So that's my comments. Anybody else? Councilor Strong.
I think actually I agreed with the mayor that putting this off until January 1st, 2027 also gives an opportunity to educate. Because when I was reading the review, I found people were really confused. What's this money going for, et cetera, et cetera. So, and and what they can say to their guests, because I think I know I had family here and they stayed in somewhere and they were able to actually recapture the marketing levy when they went back to the States. So what they can tell their guests about, I know they can recapture part of the HST. And if they're in the States, they can actually recapture the entire HST. But there's a lot of little things that I think people raised as questions, and I think we could spend a lot more time giving that information and providing it in a way they can handle with their clients.
I agree. I think, but we have to make it clear that we're going to be doing it in January 1, 27, so they don't come back in November of this year or 2026 and say, well, now we're booked half for next. So I mean, that's what's happened the last couple of years. When the region was looking at doing one municipality or the other wasn't prepared to do it at the time, so it kept getting for example, my first mayor, deputy mayor's gathering when I won the by-election was about the marketing levy. They thought they were going to have a recommendation ready to roll in September 23. And here we are in December 25. And to my knowledge, Bridgewater's, I think, has theirs passed, but they're the only one. So I think it's time to, move it along because we've been talking about it a long time. Kayla?
Yeah, sorry, just to follow up to that. Yeah, I think the intent, if the consensus of council was still get the bylaw passed and make the effective date. So early 2026, we'd go through the process of first reading, second hearing, or a public hearing and a second reading, and then make that effective date. So the legislation is in place and businesses can move forward with it. They know it's happened and they have all that time to adjust their systems.
Deputy Mayor?
I'm wondering too, and I don't know the provincial legislation perhaps that governs this, but I'm wondering even about the name. Does it have to be called a marketing levy? Is it, tied specifically to marketing for tourism? And if it can be broadened in some way, as the mayor alluded to cover things that are related to, the visitor impact on the community, but not necessarily marketing. And I know the operators are very concerned about how the money will be used and what the money is going to be used for and how it's being managed. And so I think it's really important that we have clarity on all of that, and we are able to clearly identify, under what umbrella and these funds can be used, and be able to justify their use for how they would be intended, because it is visitor funds that is being added to a revenue stream for the town. But if any town is impacted by visitors, it's this one. So we should be able to recoup some of that. And as was mentioned before, I think it's as Mayor mentioned, this has been a discussion over decades, and it's a tool that is available to us, and we just need to figure out, what it exactly looks like, and set the parameters and get going.
So do I have a general agreement, I guess, to have staff go back and come back in the new year to keep the process going? Everybody good with that? We don't need a motion for that, do we? I know you always like motions. Okay. Is someone prepared to move that? Okay. It's moved by Councillor Fullerton, seconded by Councillor Daphne. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
And just for clarity,
Yeah.
the motion is to direct staff to proceed with the drafting of the marketing levy bylaw, but the effective date will be January 1, 2027.
Yes, I'm fine with that. It's your motion, so yeah, that's good. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, we didn't vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Kayla's keeping us straight here. All those opposed, motion carried. So 11.3 is for information. Tyson does have a report there. Tyson?
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening, my first report is about Hillcrest Cemetery operations. So it gives some background on the existing role that the town and public works plays, and then we use contractors as well for some of it, and then the existing bylaw. So in terms of the operation of the cemetery, subsidized by the town after revenues generated from burial lot sales, foundation installations, burials, and interest revenue. So the current role that Public Works plays, on the front end, we we show lots in terms of making sales of burial sites. We do the layout and excavation and backfill associated with burials themselves, update the records, the historical records for Hillcrest. We perform the maintenance and repairs of the 2 existing storage buildings at the cemetery, and then miscellaneous landscaping and maintenance tasks such as touching up the roads with gravels or picking branches up that fall off the trees in wind events and things like that. So at the moment within the operating budget, we have 2 line items that cover that work. The combined value of that is $24,000 for the costs. So we just keep track of that, and if there's the opportunity to expand those items as the year progresses, then we look for those opportunities as well. So if council was interested in increasing the level of service that Public Works provides at Hillcrest Cemetery, one option would be expanding the budget in either one of those lines or both lines to allow Public Works to allocate more resources to looking after the cemetery. Another option would be to expand the workforce. It wasn't so long ago that we had seasonal workers that occupied the cemetery during summer months in particular. I think during the deputy mayor and the mayor's previous terms, that would have been the case. So previously we had 2 seasonal workers dedicated to the cemetery. That was the only sort of role they were allocated to, from what I understand. In terms of the costs associated with that, if that was to be reestablished, probably looking at each seasonal employee being a $30,000 commitment with everything sort of taken into consideration. And then they would probably require a vehicle as well. So looking at another sort of $30,000 there. One topic that's been discussed at different times is the mowing of the cemetery. So when the seasonal workers from the town, when that resource allocation changed, then that scope of work went out to contractors. So at the moment within the operating budget, we have a line in there for the mowing contract. We have a $30,000 cost allocated to that item. So the $30,000 amount to look after the cemetery for a whole season, it doesn't give us a lot of choice when the bids come in. Normally it ties us to the lowest bidder, at least in the time that I've been with the town. So if it can be challenging work as well, with especially not so much this summer. We all know it was very dry, but in wet periods, it's at the top of the hill. The terrain is steep in sections and it can get very soft. So again, if we were looking at taking this back in-house, again, referring to what we had previously with 2 seasonal employees, so we're in the range of $60,000, and then the mowing equipment that was at the cemetery, I understand that was reallocated to recreation. So again, we'd have to replace those resources. So it's a large commitment we'd be looking at there. That brings us to the existing cemetery bylaw. So the certain sections of the bylaw that cover memorials and foundations and repair and maintenance to burial sites. So that's parts of section 7 and 13 of the bylaw. based on that bylaw, it's very clear that repair and maintenance to burial sites is the responsibility of the individual owners rather than the town or public works. And that's just the way the bylaw defines that responsibility. Obviously, there's practical complications to that as time goes on. They're not really considered within the bylaw, but that's the reality of it, and I think we all likely understand that. Within our current resources and personnel and equipment, Public Works would feel comfortable making some or performing some of the maintenance, especially in the newer section of the cemetery. But the bylaw would need to be revised to allow this to happen. And there would likely need to be a greater allocation to those budget amounts that we talked about earlier. The older section of the cemetery is a different beast, and there would be historical considerations to make to Public Works performing maintenance in that area. So I've sort of summarized the three areas. This isn't meant to be exhaustive. It's just meant to initiate the discussion. Operating budget is a little way off, but I'm sure it'll be here very, very soon. But yeah, just trying to give council some options to consider. That concludes the report. If there are any questions, I can address them.
Thank you, Tyson. We talked about this a bit this afternoon, and what I'd suggest tonight is we forward this to a future, basically standalone committee of the whole meeting, because I think this is going to be a much broader discussion than we can have here tonight to accomplish anything, to be quite honest. And I do know the mowing part has been a major concern the 2 years I've been around, 2 summers I've been around. So again, if council is in agreement, I don't think we need a motion for this. Can we direct staff to we'll have the committee of a whole meeting solely on the future of the cemetery sometime in the new year? Everybody okay with that? Early in the new year? Everyone good? Okay, we good to go? Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, no argument about this suggestion. But just I want to thank Tyson for putting the report together. This is an area of our community that I think has been under prioritized for a very long time. No reflection of staff. I think that was a council that was as a result of the councils of the day. But I do think that the cemetery is an important part of our community, and it needs to be understood as such. You mentioned the historic nature of the old part of the, adjacent to Callback Street, and it. By our genealogy society, they recognize that, and it has historic significance, but it also is, basically an important park, an important, very special type of park. But it needs to be looked at in a different light than just the tombstones that have to be mowed around, which is, I think, kind of the level of attention it had been given for a very long time. And so I welcome the opportunity to look at it fuller in a fuller context. Also, just the grade of the property is problematic when you're putting tombstones on the side of a hill. They're likely to fall over. So I think there's a number of things we need to look at in a bigger management plan for that particular segment of our community.
Thank you. Councillor Strong first.
Okay, we won't fight over it. Actually, this topic came up at one of our recent Heritage Advisory Committee meetings too, and I think we would want to make sure that they are included at the Committee of the Whole level to be here for that discussion. Apparently, there are some grants that they have access to the Heritage Society has access to. Has to be a for profit for redeeming the stonework and that kind of thing. So
Excellent. Councillor Daphne.
I'm not as graceful as the deputy mayor. I'll just put it all back to a respect thing. I don't think we show the cemetery and who lies there any respect in the way that I don't want to say management, the way we care for it, maybe. I have many relatives buried there. It's family, it's respect, and it's not just my family, it's Rachel's family too. It's a respect thing. And when my cousins came here in the summer from Rochester, New York, one of the places they wanted me to take them to was the cemetery, and they were appalled, not just for the mowing of the grass and stuff, but it was like they said it was a wasteland. They didn't see the love or the concern or the respect for the people that went before us. And I look forward to the committee of the whole meeting because I have some suggestions, and I know there's other people out in the community that have some thoughts on it too, and that maybe that we can all work together to try to make the cemetery not be an afterthought, make it more part of the town and more part of us. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Fullerton.
I just wanted to further to what the deputy mayor said. Thank you for the time you've taken to put this together. I have, 3 or 4 operational questions that I have for you. But what I'll do is I'll save those until the committee of the whole meeting, or I can send them to you ahead of time, whatever you prefer. And I also agree with Councillor Daphne that there have been comments in the community about how we could do a better job of maintaining the cemetery. So I think that this information that you've given us is very helpful. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Greek.
I think another consideration to be made when we're looking at this and speaking to it at committee of the whole is the cost of the cemetery. It's been brought up by a few people to me that, the cost of a gravesite or a plot there can be rather prohibitive. So hopefully we can, look at ways to bring the graveyard and cemetery up to, a higher standard with hopefully not passing along costs to future people who are looking to buy a plot there.
Anybody else? Councillor Redmond.
Oh, actually, just further to Alex's comments, wondering if there's a way we can have for the committee of the whole meeting sort of a cost comparison of other cemeteries in the region.
And the only thing I'd like to add is that a lot of cemeteries have like vaults now for cremations, because a lot of people this day and age get cremated. A lot of the time it's because of the cost savings. So, you don't need a big lot, and you don't need to bring the guys in technically with a tractor like we do now, because we don't have a vault. So even the initial capital expense of a vault system for cremation would be a way to lower the cost, I would think, overall to people that choose to go that route, because it seems to be quite common nowadays. I mean, it obviously wasn't discussed many moons ago because it wasn't that common. So again, I like I said earlier, I think that it will have a nice, wholesome, long discussion about the cemetery. And I agree with everything I've heard here tonight. And I will say, back when I was on council many moons ago, that when we did it ourselves, it was not in the condition it's in now. And it's no shot at any of our staff. We contract out the majority of the work that people are complaining about. And this summer we didn't have as many complaints as last, but again, you really didn't have to mow for 8 or 9 weeks this summer either. So again, we'll move this forward to a committee of the whole meeting if everybody's okay with that, and move along. So 11.4, removing lands from surplus, Blockhouse Hill and King Street. Paul, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendations right now before council is there's properties on Blockhouse Hill and Upper King Street that are sitting in surplus that were discussed by previous councils for housing development and housing needs at this time. Realistically, council, you haven't discussed any options for these. You have it on your motion action list to actually have us bring it forward to remove these from surplus. So they will still be held in our land trust and can be decided at any point in time what you would like to do with it. And if you wish to divest of it, we can go back through and moving them to surplus, 1 item, 2 item, whichever PIDs. But at this time, it's as an administrative process for both planning for our land registry and just keeping up with standard processes. They should be removed from surplus unless council wishes to sell them.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Paul? Okay, there's a recommendation in front of us that council approve removing the following town-owned lands from their surplus designation. PIDs 6005-7460, 6005-7395, 6005-7387, and 6005-7379. Upper Duke Street, north of Creighton Street, and Upper King Street, north of Creighton Street, excluding the first 42.5 meters from Creighton Street north, as shown in Attachment F. And PIDs 6005-6991, 6005-6900, and 606-71427. Blockhouse Hill lands as shown in Attachment A. Lands to declare surplus following option 2, out of sight, Blockhouse Hill. So, is someone prepared to move that recommendation? Councillor Babineau. Someone prepared to second it? Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Only just to clarify that the PID numbers don't seem to be identified on the, there's 3 parcels of land, but I don't see the PID numbers on them, on the diagram.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, they weren't on the diagram originally here, but I made sure I looked at them through the land registry to ensure those were the right PIDs that were listed. So to confirm that they are, yes.
So those,
Correct.
The ones on the motion are match the purple
land
on our
registry.
diagram.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that there wasn't any confusion about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Or I just like to say that this doesn't mean, well, the King Street and Duke Street extension's already been told, we've already been told by a developer that land is undevelopable because of the topography and the condition of it. But as for Blockhouse Hill lands, the PIDs, it does not mean that there's never going to be development up there. It means at this time we don't have the infrastructure available and other things are currently available to us. So it will not be discussed at this time because we can't develop it because we don't have the infrastructure there. So we might as well remove it from surplus at this time. Not saying in the future we can't come back and start the process over again, but that's why it's being removed. So if there's no other questions, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. 11.5, rent relief request, Lunenburg Academy of Music Performance. And Paul, you're up again.
It's a night of me. Thank you, Chair. So we did receive a request from LAMP for support for rent relief for 2025-26 and 26-27, which actually takes them to the end of their lease agreement with the town. As noted in the report, LAMP has gone through some recent changes and looking at creating more sustainability within their budgets and looking to be more inclusive within the communities and broadening the scope of their offerings. They have been at the Academy since 2014, so a good 11-year span within this. They have brought world-class musicians, talent to this area, which also have for their events and how they participate in the community, which has a spin-off of economic and community development for restaurants, accommodations, shops, others. So when you're looking at LAMP, it's not just within them as the scope of what it is within the building, but you have to look at it as what is it within the community and the impacts that they have. And with the recent changes around and some of the strategic planning that they're offering and changes to their structure, they are looking for a little bit of support from the town here as per the letter that was submitted. You can see some of our financial requirements there with leasing and library leases and what we have as net revenue and what a lease reduction is recommended, that it's actually negotiation with the CAO for what rent relief we can provide based on our structures and our system. So right now the staff are recommending that council provide rent relief to LAMP for 25-26 and 26-27 under the negotiations of the CAO.
Thank you. Any questions for Paul? Okay, so I'm prepared to move the recommendation that council provide rent relief support to Lunenburg Academy of Music Performance for 2025-26 and 2026-27 under the negotiation of the Chief Administrative Officer. Councillor Strong moved it, seconded by Councillor Fullerton. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Babineau.
Not really discussion, just wanted to make a comment that I think that LAMP does some incredible stuff for the community, so I'm happy to support this one.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Any comments? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. 11.6, REMO Inter-Municipal Services Agreement Review. Paul, you're up again.
Let me get to the report. So thank you, Chair. So council, what's been going on? So REMO is our regional emergency management organization. So this is a partnership of local municipalities and towns. So Chester, ourselves, Bridgewater, Mahone Bay, and Modal. This is to support ourselves in emergency management scenarios and services. There's been an agreement in place since January of 2017, which outlined initiatives, practices, and how we work together. Within the discussion processes, what we've worked with REMO, staff and councils on amendments that really look at the funding model and how we support each other with the costing of this, the structure of REMO and municipal resources. So things like mandatory training for staff, that we have to have an X number of complements of members trained in certain positions and duplicate positions. We actually are looking at 11 or 12 staff members to be fully trained, but we also want to get basic emergency management and other training for all of staff so they understand this, because this will help us if we have to declare a state of local emergency. But if we don't and one of our neighbors does, we have the ability to support them with our resources and help relief, because when you're looking at a 24-hour period of REMO activation, you're looking at 33 to 36 members that need to be incorporated in this. And most municipalities, that would max out your staff in one 8-hour shift. So this would allow us to work together jointly at a level that would support us and our neighbors within these scenarios, as well as this also puts in sanctions for non-participation. So if we don't have training for staff, if we're not attending the meetings, if we're not participating in the roles of REMO, there are financial mechanisms that the organization can actually put down and the board of REMO can actually put onto municipalities. And when we looked at it, it was a cost-effective scenario based on what it would cost for CAOs, for top level officials to be a part of this. So it really instills that it is extremely important that we have emergency management people who are trained in this, and that we are all prepared as a whole, because I mean, talking the 2023 flooding, this is what really initiated a lot of the change going forward, and that there is a strong commitment from all the towns and municipalities to move forward in a really strong REMO decision. So we're looking at, so on a financial model, it will be based on municipal contributions. So you're looking at a base rate we'll all share of. This has been a $420,000 fund that we'll all share a base rate of 20%, and then it'll be uniformed assessment based on that. So the town itself will pay another 5 to 6% of the entire bill. So our bill as total is about $35,000 for REMO, and that would just be what we incorporate into our operational budgets every year. So if council has any questions, but I can happy to answer, but the changes are provided to you, but it's recommended that we approve the amendments to the REMO Inter-Municipal Service Agreement as presented.
Anybody have any, Councillor Strong? Oh, it's moved by Councillor Strong. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greek. Deputy Mayor?
Just more commentary, actually. I just wanted to mention as a representative of REMO, who was involved in the discussions about this with our municipal partners, and Councillor Fullerton and the mayor may also have some perspective on this, but this revision is I think an important one, and one that will continue to make our partnership with our municipal neighbors even stronger. And so important for us to recognize the importance of having staff trained and working with those around us to ensure we're all covered in the events, the recent events, as was mentioned. They seem to be coming more frequently, and we all need to be better prepared. So it's a great deal for us, and I just a little bit of a kudo to our Lunenburg County REMO, because we were a bit ahead of the curve in that we have a partnership formed, and the province has recently mandated that there be partnerships among neighboring municipalities to provide this service. So I think we're well on the way to having all of the tools we need to keep people safe during these awful emergency events that seem to keep happening.
Thank you. I'd just like to add, as vice chair of REMO, that both financially and staffing purposes, we would not be able to function on our own. So the financial burden we have to pay during operational budget times is very minor in comparison to what we have there waiting for us if ever needed. And I will say that REMO meetings are very informative, very interesting, and it really is one of the more important, I think, regional committees that we would have. And we do have a very strong REMO in this area. And, the committee is very committed to REMO. And this actually makes things, it's written out more clearly than it ever was. So now we all know what our responsibilities are moving forward. So I think that this is all for the right reasons. So anyone else have anything else? Councillor Babineau.
Just wondering, is this the first time this agreement has been amended since 2017? Oh yeah, okay. Because I was like, wow, that's a lot of yellow, but that makes sense. So that was all.
Councillor Strong.
Wanted to add from an employment HR perspective that these are very important activities for staff to be involved in, and it says a lot about the commitment of our staff to be involved in it. And I wanted to thank everybody on staff that's participated over the last few years and going forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. 11.7. Paul, you're up again.
Thank you, Chair. So this is more for information to council, but wanted to bring you up to speed on the parking meters. So more recently, background, we have coin-operated parking meters within the old town that do not accept credit cards, debit cards, or any other online payment system. So if you've ever seen or been here during a change exchange and how it works, it's a very labor-intensive process in which a lot of time, money, and weight and strength is needed for these. So we have to look at other options that we can collect funds, because we know even when the parking meters are full, like we're still getting a lot of tourists, we're still getting a lot of people putting into the meters, and they can't accept anymore. So by virtue, we were looking at a couple of different options. One was to replace all the meter heads over like a 5-year period. You were looking at a $250,000 process that would accept credit cards and debit cards. It's an extremely high cost for investment. Looking at digital kiosks, so those print off ones you can go to, take up a lot of space. We don't have a lot of space on sidewalks. We don't want to eliminate parking spots just to put these in, and would be intrusive to the streetscape. So that was not an option. And then we looked at a company called Hotspot, which uses QR codes and mobile apps. So it's used in Halifax, Fredericton, St. John, Bridgewater even has this installed. And it's a low cost, it's a one-time investment of $10,000 to get us started. And then there's a low maintenance cost as it comes to the distribution of funds that are collected. So they'll take a 2.99% payment off as they hold the funds and transfer them to us. But this would allow for a lot more people to use digital payment systems to scan the QR codes on either signs or on the actual parking meters, pay for parking, and then more people, because we're seeing more of a cashless, changeless society that's coming within this, and this will give us a hybrid option where we still keep the meters that we have in place that are still accepting coins, but also offer the option of a digital payment system to which will be transferred to us on a bi-weekly basis. So it's something that's within our budget streams that we're working through. So we'd be receiving 42 QR code signs that we'll look at placing in the downtown, 250 QR code stickers and labels for our parking meters, a device used by bylaw enforcement that's actually preloaded that we can scan, make sure that everybody is paid up, or can do enforcement after that. We'll be providing online training and in-person training for staff. We're also looking at an educational piece for the public to show how to use these and how simple it is to use them. It's very easily integrated into our financial system and has the capability for long-term parking permitting functions if that is something we want to look at. So within the structures and what we have and resources for this year, and speaking with finance, we're able to move forward with this and just bringing this forward to information to council before we proceed with signing the final contract and moving forward with this next steps.
Thank you. Any comments? Councillor Strong.
For the record, Councillor Daphne and I have struggled with the hotspots in Halifax on every occasion that we've gone in for the NSFM. I've paid like thousands of dollars, no, not literally, maybe $75 to park this at the meetings that we were at most recently, when it should have only cost 15. But we're still elbows up. Is the hotspot system a Canadian system? Because I do take comfort in the meters being only made in Nova Scotia.
So yes, through your chair, it is hosted in Canada. So it is, we have no problem with our servers. That was we tend to ask that question to every software company, every group that we're working with. Is it serviced in Canada? Is it hosted in Canada? Because if it's not, we don't want to touch it because information and privacy is different in different countries.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Just one of those questions that'll probably get answered in the education programming that goes forward, but just the device that's mentioned for bylaw enforcement, presumably that's something that our bylaw officer can look at and tell if somebody's paid, because, you know, when the meters are there and it's expired, yeah, it's pretty simple to tell, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, through your chair. So the neat thing about the device is it can either scan the license plate or because depending on which, so if you use the signs and you can type in your license plate and say that I'm paying parking, or if you're at the meter and it has the number associated with it, we can just scan and look up the number. And if it is associated with that vehicle, then we know it's paid. If not, we can go to enforcement measures with that. So it's, and if somebody's put money into the meter and somebody's just parked there, we also will be looking at that. So it's both still looking at the meters as well as the handheld device will give us the quick information as needed.
So follow up for the comfort of Councillor Strawn. I too have struggled. I did find actually that if you call up the help phone, you can get some of that reimbursed.
Councillor Greig?
One question, Paul. Is there going to be still a time limit on how long people can park in the spots with this new system?
Through your chair, yes. It's still our goal to it's to use what we have in place now. Well, we might modify a little bit of just either the timing or the amount, but that's to be discussed down the line and to be brought forward to council. But the goal is to still use the same time frame, still the same thing. So we wouldn't charge in December like we normally do. We would still keep that same process in place, unless council wishes that change.
Deputy Mayor.
That just sparked another question, actually. Do we need to make any changes to our bylaw to and adopt this? Do we know?
Through you, Chair, because it's part of paid parking meters. It should be still within the same realm. It's just a digital version of a paid parking, so we shouldn't have to, but we can just do a double check on the bylaw, and if we need to, we can bring it back to mention digital meters as well.
I'd just like to add that it's taking us into this century, which I think is good. It's time. I know from being right downtown in the main core that a lot of people that don't put money in the meters isn't because they don't want to pay for parking. It's because nobody has change on them anymore. So we don't see any cash anymore. Everybody pays with plastic, which is just the world we live in. But we do go through a ton of loonies and toonies every summer because we need to have that to make change for the meters. So I'm glad that we're moving forward. And just to make my counselors more reassured, I went up to watch my nephew play hockey this year and did the hotspot thing. And my sister actually did it. We both watched it. We thought it went through. Well, it was really, we went for supper, 45 minutes, come out, and I was double booted. So $150 it cost to move my car because obviously we didn't get connected and we thought we did. And the guy we called because they had to come get the boot off, and as much as we begged, I even offered them cash. Like they wouldn't negotiate, right? It was $150 or my car would still be sitting there. So I am really happy to say that these are still going to take cash for those of us that struggle with technology at times. So anybody else? Councillor Fullerton?
I like the fact that it's still going to be a hybrid system for people who really are not going to embrace the technology. But you also said something that I wanted to just clarify, and that was about permit parking. If we eventually get to that, can you expand on that a little bit, please?
So through you, Chair, it would allow us to do digital permitting. So if council wanted to look at sectioning off X amount of parking spots to rent out for a monthly basis, you could actually have that license plate issue a permit digitally, and that it would be on the handheld device so that anytime you scan that particular one in those areas, that is a designated registered spot. So you could charge X dollars for it, set it up that way. It might be something we want to discuss down the line because there are a lot of businesses and a lot of people that do park in front of businesses. So, and understanding some of our parking fines are cheaper than just paying, or it's cheaper to pay the parking fine than it is to put it in the meter. So that's part of also what we want to look at, as well as, what is the fines? How does that come with enforcement? Knowing that places like Bridgewater, I think it's $15 or $20 for the parking fine and ours is 10. So it really just comes back to, okay, I either feed the meter or I give you $10. So it's both in those lights, but it'll be a far superior system.
That's great. Thank you.
Councillor Greek?
Must say it is working in the service industry. I have also heard, from a lot of people that it is nice to kind of have the option. A lot of people don't know that you necessarily can only have coins right now. So it's nice to have that option. And, to Paul's point regarding fines, it puts me in a bit of an uncomfortable situation as both someone working in the service industry and a town council when I recommend what the best way to park is. So it's good to hear that some changes may be made.
Well, I'm glad to hear that as well, because I used to joke for years, because I think the parking meters have gone up 4 or 5 times at least in the last 10 years. And the fines have always been $10. So if you're any type of math whiz at all, it doesn't take much to figure out. You're better off taking your chances and not putting money in. So again, I'm glad to see that we're going to look at that as well. So no, thank you very much for the report. So 11.8 Lunenburg Academy roof repairs pre-approval for 2026-27. And that is Tyson.
Thank you again, Your Worship. This evening, we have the Lunenburg Academy roof repairs pre-approval for the 26-27 capital budget. So the recommendation to council is that council pre-approve the Lunenburg Academy roof repairs project for fiscal 26-27 in the amount of $1,039,000. And that includes the net HST. So going back to April 19 of this year, the following motion was approved that council deferred the Lunenburg Academy roof repairs project with the intention of staff keeping the same scope for 26-27, town capital budget, and proceeding with the tender process as soon as possible. So we're looking at bringing the capital budget to council early in 2026. But in order to move the process ahead, as we've discussed at that time, and if I'm recalling correctly, other times as well, we're seeking pre-approval on that revised capital budget amount of $1,039,000 for the project. So this project, we're working with the Academy Foundation. They've again committed to a $250,000 amount for the budget, and community development through Mark has resubmitted to Parks Canada the same grant application as we received previously. The good news on that one is that the ceiling on that funding opportunity is raised very slightly. In the context, it's up a maximum of $300,000. So we're going for that. You know, we don't know what we'll receive, but in terms of that budget that we're talking about with the $1,039,000, if those two funding partners were to eventuate to the maximum, that would leave us $489,000 to fund. So that's up fairly significantly from our commitment in our planned commitment in 25-26, where the total budget was at $750 and all three parties were at $250. But if that Parks Canada amount, we don't get the 300, then that would put that responsibility on the town. So if we got zero, it makes it 789 potentially, right? Just the way the math goes. So you'll notice that budget has gone up from the 750 to the 1039. Well aware that we're not in line with the tenders that we received in 25-26. If council remembers, the lowest one, we received two tenders. The lowest one was $1.62 million plus the tax. So I just want to make it very clear, we're not extending that far without commitment in this proposal. That amount can be raised, but it would fall on the town the way it looks at the moment. So that concludes the report. But if there are any questions about it, I can answer them.
Councilor Strong.
Comment. I always wondered how the tender process worked and whether someone that's putting a bid in under a tender looks at our minutes and sees how much we're pre-approving, or, you know, and clearly they weren't looking at what we had approved for last year because it was outrageously higher than what we expected. But that's just a comment for me, so I'm prepared to move it, but yeah, okay. I'm going to move that council pre-approve the Lunenburg Academy roof repairs project for fiscal 26-27 in the amount of $1,039,000.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Fullerton. Anybody else have anything you want to say? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say that this is the third year running that we've been attempting to make this repair. And each time it's because the budget has been far exceeded. And so I know we have some some plans in place to try to mitigate having that same issue recur again. And I'm grateful for everyone's contribution in having those other options at play. But I also think it's very important that this pre-approval happen so we give ourselves the best opportunity to get the best price for the job and hopefully can see it to completion. So thanks.
Councillor Babineau.
Just wanted to, I guess, it says here from what I'm reading in the staff report that if we were on the hook for the 789,000, assuming that that grant was unsuccessful, that it's not anticipated to impact our overall capital borrowing plan. So even if we don't get that grant, we should be all right in terms of the borrowing plan. That's correct.
Through the chair, the financial aspects, Lisa Dagley helped with, so I have the same understanding as you've outlined there. But in terms of the finance, that was unfortunately that was her part of the report. So.
I will add that staff is turning over every stone possible for any possible funding opportunities out there provincially, as well as some counselors sitting around this table have had a few discussions with some politicians, and I guess we're quite popular on YouTube. So if any buddies out there that wants to donate $489,000 to fix the academy roof, they can contact Paul at the town hall, because we do take donations for things like this. So again, I think it's very important to see this project through, and let's all cross our fingers that by getting the 10 RFP out good and early this year, that we get some sensible bids in front of us, because the last time there was really one Canadian bidder and the second bidder was from the US. So, I mean, that's, I think, one of the reasons they were so high as well. So again, there is a motion in front of us. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. 11.9, Tyson.
Thank you again, Your Worship. My next report relates to the grant application for the Safe and Active School Routes Funding Program that is through Efficiency Nova Scotia and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So back on October 14th, we presented a report when we're at the pre-application stage. We successfully made it through that part. So we're working on the application, which is due on Friday. Part of it requires council to make a commitment to support the application when nothing is formalized in terms of the capital budget, because we're not there yet. So that's really what we're looking for in this report. Council to confirm that the Town of Lunenburg's commitment and financial support for the Safe and Active School Routes project and its funding application. So $125,000 is available to us here. Just a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you. And out of that 125, the way I read the report, we've now qualified that we'd only have to pay 20% of that. Like, we'd have to come up with 20% of that 125, or 20% on top of.
Through the chair, $125,000 is the amount available to us under the program. The project budget itself would be the order of $650,000, $700,000 in that ballpark.
So that, yeah, they'd only fund up to 80%, but we're going much bigger for our project. Okay, yeah. Okay, is someone prepared to move the recommendation that council confirm the Town of Lunenburg's commitment and financial support for the Safe and Active School Routes project and its funding application? Moved by Councillor Babineau, seconded by Councillor Strong. Any further discussion on the recommendation? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. 11.10, Tyson?
Thank you. Last report, I think. Capital status update for council this evening. So this one is a follow-up on the last one that was presented to council was at the October 7th committee of the whole. So we've kind of had October and November since then. Got lots and lots of work done since then. So it's the same format as the previous one. Any project that I've included with a star next to it hasn't really changed since the previous report, but we're still going to count the completed ones that we had because it's nice to see them ticked off again. So in terms of the new items, I'll just cover a couple of them very, very briefly. So the town budget for completed projects. We're all aware that the bandstand restoration and accessible walkway was substantially completed just in the nick of time for Christmas and the Christmas celebrations, and it looks amazing with the tree there, and really came together well. So great to see that. In the water budget, we have the spillway and dam repair. So that project has been in existence for as long as I've been with the town. So it's very nice to have that sort of project completed, and a bit of a monkey off the back there, it feels like. So there's some photographs of that one in the report. Really ended up a really nice job. We have the Pelham Street reconstruction, which at the time I wrote the report was still in progress, but that was substantially completed last Monday and was open back up. So that was a sanitary main and lateral upgrade, storm separation, road reconstruction project. And in terms of our downtown traffic improvements, we were able to purchase 4 speed monitoring signs that we'll install likely in the new year. But we had 2 previously. One of them is on Victoria Road and isn't as accurate as we would like. I feel like it isn't. So we can put those in strategic positions and gather data, and it would help the kinds of things that the RCMP officer talked about this evening can help us with that, and data support the observations that are made around town. So and then we also have our water meter rollout coming up very soon. Residents and commercial customers are likely to see a mail out from the contractor in the coming weeks, where they'll be given an outline of why we need the meters, what to expect, and how to book their appointments. So that's coming up, and by the spring of 2026, that the meters should all be in place. The billings won't necessarily be aligned with the meters because there'll be a period of data capturing in terms of assessing the rates and making sure we get that right. But something that's going to come up very soon in the new year. If there's any questions about other projects or those ones, can answer them.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to say a few things. Number one, of all the capital projects of any size I've seen us do over the years from the last time I was here and recently, I must say that Pelham Street reconstruction seemed to go as smoothly as I've ever seen a project of that size. No real big issues down in that area during the whole project. So again, I thank you and then the contractor really for doing that, because it went very well. And then I guess thank staff all of you and apologize for me basically harassing you about the bandstand because late morning or mid-morning Friday before the Christmas events on Saturday, I was starting to have panic attacks. So again, the bandstand looks amazing. Great job. And quite frankly, I've heard nothing around the community but positive comments about the bandstand. So great job, Dahl. And again, I thank you guys and Paul, because I was texting him all the time and telling him the fence was still up. So again, thank you very much. And no, it's a great, I guess it was a great reopening of the bandstand as well, the way it all came together. So again, thank you, Tyson. Anybody else?
I look at, I purposely go by the bandstand daily just to ogle at it. It's wonderful. And I know you were under a lot of stress and pressure, as was the mayor, who was texting me even about the bandstand. So I think it's a big pat on the back. Project management really worked on that case. Maybe it was stressful, but it worked.
Thank you. Councillor Babineau.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the photos of the spillway upgrades because it's very cool and not something that we walk by all the time. So thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Fuller.
I'm looking forward to a site tour of the spillway in the spring.
Yes, that'll be interesting. Thank you. Nothing else. We'll move on to notice of motions. I'll start to my left this time. So, Councillor Fullerton.
Just keep it brief. It was busy days these days with community events. We still have our council work to do. We had our Christmas weekend. We have some business social events that we have, as council, have participated in. One last night for the Board of Trade here. There's one tomorrow night in Bridgewater, and then we have a few more things in terms of community events that we will all support as much as we can. And then it will be time for us to focus on our families and our celebrations. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Councillor Greek.
Quick update. We had a Region 6 Waste Management meeting late November. I'm sure everyone's probably heard throughout the media or social media or other areas that EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, went live on December 1st throughout the province. So essentially this means that there's a few new items that we can put in our blue bags and for recycling, and that there's more of an onus put on the producer of the packaging to ensure that it gets recycled. Not necessarily any impact to us, the consumer, but just a little bit more help for the environment. So with that said, that's my only other thing. So would also like to wish everyone a happy holidays, and we'll see everyone back here in 2026, if not before.
Thank you. Councillor Babineau.
Nothing to report, but just want to wish the community happy holidays as well.
Councillor Strong.
Okay. Been a busy month for committees for me. I've had Library, Heritage Advisory, Harborview Haven, and the recently, what is the name of our committee with the Water Resource Management Committee? Okay, yeah, that's it. We had that meeting recently too, which was exciting. And I want to congratulate everybody that was involved in the UNESCO celebration. I really think there was something for everybody there, and it's just a good evening. And I was surprised by, probably just as everybody else was, by the email that came in from Jean Chrétien, who really took an interest in it in the original days. So anyway, something good happened.
Thank you. Councillor Daphne.
So I'm just looking at the calendar. So somewhere near the end of next week, there could be a surprise downtown. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Just happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you. And I'd just like to, I guess, say a few things. Number one, this Friday night, there is, I guess, a shop hop in town with Father Christmas appearing, making a special appearance. So he'll be walking around the different merchants. So come on out. Hopefully most of us will participate. But I just wanted to add that the last 2 weeks, quite honestly, have been extremely busy, both for this group sitting around, but for myself. But I just want to thank the community because there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than attending these events like I've been doing and representing this town, because it's truly an honor. And for me and my family, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a safe and happy 2026. So I have nothing more. So there's nothing on 13 or 14. So a motion for adjournment is in order. So moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Strong. Good evening, everyone, or good night, everyone, and have a great evening, great, safe Christmas holidays, and enjoy the holiday season. That's what it's all about. So enjoy.